They don't want you to know this, but flight attendants can make over $100 an hour. $100 an hour. Flight attendants can make over $100 an hour. That's kind of crazy. Really? So the top out pay for flight attendants isn't $100 an hour, but we actually get paid more than just our hourly rate. We have our per diem, and then there's an international per diem that's more than the domestic per diem. And also, we have international pay that is stacked on top of our hourly wages. So this all together, let's say you're top of the pay scale of one of the legacy airlines. You're flying a basic trip, international trip that's like 17 hours. You're away from base for like 47 hours. Your pay for this trip is going to be around $1,462 for this 3-day international, let's say, European trip. So for this trip, you're saying you work 17 hours. That's your flight hours. Your full hourly wages is going to be for 17 hours. But we'll break it down. So these flights over there, you're actually going to have a rest period. So you're able to take a nap. You're not working. Let's say over to the close Europe, it's going to be 2 hours rest. And when you're not resting and the other group of people are resting, that's another 2 hours. You're just monitoring things in the cabin. And for this long flight, a lot of your passengers will be asleep. There will be some passengers where you need to take care of. You always want to make sure everyone is safe and comfortable. But this is another 2 hours where you're not physically working very hard. So these flights, 8.5 hour flights, let's say you're actually only working around 4 hours and 4.5 hours for these flights. So for these two flights that you're working, this 3-day international trip, you're actually only working 9 hours. You could say, no, you're working the 17 hours. But yes, but the amount of work that you're doing and the downtime that you have is actually pretty vast. You're actually not actively working too much for, let's say, half the time. Out of these 17 hours you're supposed to be working, that you're credited to be working, you're actually only working 9 hours. Divide that 1,462 by 9 hours, and you get this figure right here, and it is over $100 an hour. It's $162 an hour, almost $200 an hour, almost, y'all. So this is for people at the top of the pay scale at the legacy carriers. There's lots of steps below it, so not everyone is making these figures. But a few of the brackets will, because like I said, we're over $100 an hour. This is mostly going to be for international trips because you're actually only working 2 flights. Some international trips, there are going to be more than 2 flights, but most of the international trips are there and back. There's no downtime to dilute your hourly wages. You get there, you have 24 hours of vacation, you're hanging out in the city, hanging out on the beach, hanging out at the bar with your kid folks. You're having a blast, and then you work that 8.5 hours back, having another 4 hours of downtime. That's the life, y'all. Work smarter, not harder. Domestically, this doesn't work out so well because you have multiple legs. You have sits in between the legs, downtime between the flights, and that kind of dilutes your pay rate. There is a lot of downtime still there. It's probably more hard to calculate, but this is best example for international flights. Y'all, you know, You're not actively working right now, chilling, still getting paid.